I knew something was terribly wrong the second I woke up, because the house wasn't silent anymore. It was breathing. Not the slow settling of walls, not the hum of a heater, but an actual rhythmic inhale and exhale coming from somewhere inside the darkness of my own bedroom. First, I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just lay there, absolutely still, listening to that slow, heavy breathing echoing through the room. Deep, controlled, and too close. Way too close. My mind instantly tried to explain it away. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe the house was shifting. But then something warm brushed against my cheek. A soft exhale, a breath that didn't belong to me. And that's when my body froze so violently it felt like my bones turned to ice. Because I live alone. I was supposed to be alone. And nobody, absolutely nobody, should have been breathing inches away from my face. The darkness around me felt thick, like the shadows were pressed up against my skin. I couldn't see a thing, but I could feel it, a presence. Huge. Still. Close. The breathing suddenly stopped. Not faded. Not slowed. It stopped. Instantly. As if whatever was there suddenly realized I was awake. The silence that followed wasn't normal silence. It was suffocating, intentional. Like the air itself was listening. 1 second passed. Then another. Then another. Nothing. And then the bed dipped. Just slightly. Just enough for the mattress beneath me to shift under a weight that was absolutely not mine. I felt something, an outline, a shape, leaning closer in the darkness, hovering inches above my face. My heart pounded so loud I knew it could hear it. I could practically feel its attention tightening around me, focusing, studying, waiting. Then from the foot of the bed the sound started. A soft creak. Then another. Slow. Measured. Like footsteps. Like something repositioning itself. Like something deciding what to do next. The air turned icy. My breath fogged in the dark. And then a voice I didn't recognize whispered from the side of the bed. You finally woke up. My entire body seized. Not from the words themselves, but from the fact that the voice was so close, that I felt every sound vibrate against my skin, that whoever whispered those words was sitting right beside me in the darkness, and that they had been waiting. And the worst part? It didn't sound confused, or startled, or surprised. It sounded excited, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. The moment I opened my eyes, the moment I became aware, the moment I realized I was not alone in my own home. Long before I ever knew something else was in the room with me. My name is Daniel, and for most of my life I've been the kind of person who enjoys quiet evenings at home. I work as a graphic designer for a small marketing agency, which means long hours in front of a screen, a lot of deadlines, and even more coffee than I'm willing to admit. By the time I get home each day, all I want is silence. No coworkers, no clients, no noise. Just my own space and my own peace. I live in a small suburban neighborhood just outside Portland. It's not fancy or expensive, but it's safe, clean, and calm in a way I've always appreciated. My house is a single-story rental with a small porch, 2 bedrooms, and a backyard lined with tall pine trees that sway when the wind picks up. Even though I live alone, the place has always felt warm and welcoming, like a quiet retreat from the world. On the night everything happened, it was a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. I got home around 6:30 p.m., the sun already dipping behind the trees, casting long orange shadows across the living room floor. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, kicked off my shoes, and felt that familiar sense of comfort settle over me. The kind that only comes from stepping into your own home after a long day. Dinner was simple. Leftover pasta, reheated in the microwave. I ate it on the couch while scrolling through my phone, half watching a lighthearted sitcom I'd already seen a dozen times. Nothing unusual. Nothing interesting. Just the kind of quiet evening I've lived 100 times before. Around 8 p.m., I decided to take a warm shower to relax. The bathroom mirror fogged up quickly, and the soft sound of water hitting tile soothed the stress out of my shoulders. When I stepped out, the house felt even more peaceful. I put on an old sweatshirt, turned on a small lamp in the living room, and opened my laptop to finish a few leftover tasks. It wasn't long before the calm rhythm of typing and soft background music eased every remaining thought out of my head. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't worried. Everything in my world felt familiar and safe. The house creaked occasionally, like it always does when the temperature drops, but it was the kind of sound I'd grown so used to I barely noticed it. By 10:15 p.m., I was ready for bed. I turned off the lights, leaving only the soft glow of the hallway nightlight to guide me. The air inside the house felt warm, the kind of cozy warmth that makes you want to curl up under the blankets and drift off instantly. I checked the front door locked as always, the backyard gate closed, the windows secure. I wasn't paranoid. It was just routine, something I'd done every night for years without thinking twice. With everything in its place, I slipped into bed, pulling the comforter up to my chin. The sheets were cool, the pillows soft, and the silence settling over the house felt complete and comforting. If there was ever a night I felt truly safe, truly relaxed, truly certain nothing could possibly go wrong, it was that one. I don't know what pulled me out of sleep the first time. A dream, a sound, or just my body shifting. But when my eyes opened, something about the room felt different. Not wrong. Not frightening. Just off in a way I couldn't quite explain. The house was quiet, but not the usual kind of quiet I was used to. Normally I could hear the refrigerator humming, the soft buzz of electricity in the walls, or the faint rustling of trees outside. But now everything felt muted, like the house was wrapped in a blanket that swallowed up sound. I lay there for a moment listening. Nothing. Just a thick, almost padded silence. I glanced at my phone on the nightstand. 2:47 a.m. For some reason the time unsettled me. I almost never wake up in the middle of the night, and when I do it's usually because of something obvious, a loud car, a storm, a bad dream. But this felt different. It felt like I had been nudged awake by something gentle, something subtle. I tried to shrug it off and closed my eyes again. Then I heard it. A small sound so faint I wasn't even sure it was real. A soft creak like a floorboard shifting under the slightest bit of weight. I held my breath and listened harder. Another creak. Then silence. The sound had come from the hallway, or maybe the living room. It was impossible to tell. It wasn't loud enough to suggest movement, but it definitely wasn't the kind of noise the house usually made. My mind immediately tried to rationalize it. Old wood expands. Temperatures change. Houses breathe. But something in my chest tightened, refusing to fully believe it. After a minute or two, I reached over and pulled the blanket up higher, trying to relax. The room felt colder than it had before. Just slightly, but enough that my skin prickled under the sheets. I closed my eyes again, focusing on my breathing, hoping sleep would take me quickly. It didn't. Another sound broke the silence. A faint tap. Not sharp, not intentional. Just a tiny noise like something gently brushed against the wall. My eyes snapped open. This time I didn't move. I didn't even shift in the bed. I just lay perfectly still, listening. Nothing followed. No footsteps. No creaks. Just that same heavy silence pressing against my ears. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to admit it, but something about the air felt different, thicker, almost charged, like the feeling you get when someone stands behind you, even if you don't see or hear them. The thought made my stomach twist. I slowly rolled onto my back, trying to breathe normally. My mind was awake now, alert, searching for patterns in the dark. The shadows in the room seemed deeper somehow, pooling in the corners like ink. For the briefest moment I had the unsettling sensation that something was nearby. Not close enough to see or hear, but close enough that my body felt it on instinct. Another soft sound, this one almost like fabric brushing, or something lightly shifting its weight. I told myself it was just the house, just my imagination, just a restless night. But as I lay there, staring into the silent dark, one thought kept whispering in the back of my mind. Something else is awake in the house. And it's not moving yet, it's waiting. The next time I woke up, it wasn't gradual. It was violent, like my body snapped awake before my mind could catch up. For a moment I didn't know why. But the second my eyes opened, I felt it. The air in the room wasn't just cold anymore. It was heavy, dense, pressing against my skin like a weight. Felt wrong. Not in a subtle way, not in a maybe I'm imagining it way. This was different, immediate, crushing, unmistakable. Something was in the room with me. I stayed frozen, staring at the ceiling, listening with every nerve in my body. No sound, no movement, just that thick, unnatural stillness, the kind that feels like it's watching you. My breathing became shallow without me realizing it. Each inhale felt harder than the last. Then from the corner of the room something shifted. Not a creak this time. Not the house settling. A real movement. A deliberate movement. Soft but controlled, as if something large adjusted its posture. My chest tightened as my eyes strained against the dark, trying to make out shapes in the corner. The shadows there seemed deeper than the rest of the room, darker than darkness should be. I blinked. Once. Twice. And then I saw it. A shape. A figure. Tall, too tall to be a person. Its outline was barely visible, like it absorbed the little bit of moonlight coming through the curtain instead of reflecting it. For a second my brain refused to process it. This couldn't be real. I had locked every door. Every window. I lived alone. But the shape didn't fade. It didn't shift with my eyes. It was real. And it was standing in the corner of my bedroom. My pulse jumped so hard I felt dizzy. The figure didn't move, not yet. But the atmosphere around it changed, thickening like the entire room was being pulled toward that spot. The shadows rippled just slightly, as if the air around it was bending. I couldn't breathe. Then it stepped forward. One step. Silent. Smooth. Controlled. Its form became clearer, long arms hanging lower than they should, shoulders hunched in a way no human body could naturally hold. Its legs moved without sound, without weight, like it wasn't walking on the floor but through it. Another step. My heartbeat hammered so violently it felt like it might burst. I tried to scream but my throat locked, frozen by fear. The thing stopped halfway across the room. Not inches away, just far enough that I could sense it watching me. But the worst part wasn't its size, or its shape, or the absolute silence it moved with. It was the moment I realized it knew I was awake. The air around me tightened, pressing into my lungs, forcing short, panicked breaths. The figure leaned slightly, just enough that I knew it was studying me. Every instinct in my body screamed run, move, do something, but I couldn't. My body was frozen under the weight of its presence. Then in one slow, deliberate motion, the figure tilted its head. Not curiously, not confused, but as if it had finally decided what it was going to do next. And in that instant I knew. This wasn't just a nightmare. This wasn't my imagination. Something real, something dangerous, something wrong was in my house, and it had been waiting for the exact moment I knew it existed. The moment that thing tilted its head, something like electricity ripped through my body. A violent urgency that tore me out of paralysis. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I moved. I threw myself out of bed so fast I barely felt the floor slam against my knees. The creature reacted instantly. Its head snapped toward me with a jerking, unnatural motion that made my stomach drop. I scrambled backward, palms slipping against the hardwood, trying to get away from it, from the darkness, from that suffocating pressure crushing the air around me. It stepped forward. Not fast, worse. Slow, controlled, confident. Like it already knew there was nowhere I could go. And oh! The scream ripped out of my throat before I realized it. I lurched to my feet and bolted toward the hallway, my breath breaking into sharp, panicked gasps. Behind me, silence. No footsteps. No sounds of pursuit. That was somehow more terrifying. I tore through the hallway, slamming into the wall as I reached the corner. My hands fumbled toward the light switch, flicking it up, nothing. The power was out. The entire house drowned in darkness. My chest tightened. I stumbled toward the front door, practically throwing myself at it. My fingers clawed at the lock, shaking so violently I could barely grip it. For a split second I glanced over my shoulder. The hallway was empty, but the darkness felt alive. I twisted the lock, yanked the handle. The door didn't open. The deadbolt. I'd forgotten the deadbolt. My heart launched into my throat as I spun back, reaching up, feeling for the cold metal, and that's when I heard it. A soft sound, a brush of fabric, a quiet shift of air, coming from the hall, coming closer. My hand shook so hard I nearly missed the lock, but finally, click, the bolt slid open. As I pulled the door, a shadow moved at the end of the hallway, tall, still, watching. The door flew open and freezing night air slammed into me. I bolted outside barefoot, gravel biting into my feet as I sprinted toward the driveway. My lungs burned. My legs shook. Every breath felt like knives. But I didn't stop. Not even when I heard something behind me. Not footsteps, not running, but a low, deep creak. The house shifting under weight that shouldn't exist. I reached my car, yanked the handle, unlocked it, Dove inside. My hands were trembling so badly I dropped the keys. They hit the floor with a tiny clink. I froze. The house stood completely still. No lights. No sound. No movement. Then the front door, still open, eased wider. Not pushed. Not pulled. Just a smooth, quiet swing. My breath caught. I grabbed the keys, jammed them into the ignition and turned. The engine sputtered. Choked. Stalled. No. I tried again. The engine roared to life. And in the gap of the headlights between the trees, something stood. Not at the porch anymore. Not in the doorway. Closer. Halfway across the yard. Still. Watching. I slammed my foot on the gas. The car fishtailed on the gravel, the trees whipping past in a blur, the darkness clawing at the windows as I tore down the road. And I didn't look back. Not even once. Because I knew if I saw how close it really was, I wouldn't survive the knowing. I didn't stop driving until the highway lights appeared. Long yellow streaks cutting through the darkness like lifelines. My hands were locked around the steering wheel, muscles trembling so hard I could feel the vibrations in my teeth. I don't remember the turns. I don't remember the road. I barely remember breathing. I pulled into a gas station just past the city border. The kind that stays open all night and feels strangely safe simply because it isn't home. Bright fluorescent lights flooded the parking lot, reflecting off the windshield like a shield, like a reminder that the world was still normal somewhere. I sat there for nearly 10 minutes before I trusted my legs enough to move. Inside, the hum of refrigerators, the quiet music overhead, the sight of another human being behind the counter. It all grounded me. Made the terror feel far away. Made me think maybe, just maybe, I had imagined parts of it. But then my reflection in the cooler door caught my eye. My shirt was stretched at the shoulder, the fabric pulled like someone had grabbed it. My arms were covered in faint, irregular marks. Some I recognized from hitting the floor. Others I didn't recognize at all. And worst of all, my cheek. There was a faint gray smear across it. Not dirt. Not dust. Something darker. Like ash. Or soot. Or something that had touched me but shouldn't have left a mark. My stomach twisted. I washed my face in the bathroom sink until my skin burned, but the smear didn't completely fade. It was as if it had sunk into the skin. By sunrise, I had driven to the nearest police station. I told them everything. Every detail, every sound, every moment. The officer's expression didn't change once. When I finished, he nodded politely, the way someone nods when listening to something they don't quite believe but don't want to dismiss outright. 2 officers went to check my house. I waited in the lobby. For an hour. Then 2. Finally they came back. Nothing unusual found, they said. Front door closed. Windows locked. No signs of forced entry. No footprints in the hallway. No disturbed furniture. No broken power lines. And my bedroom? Everything looked normal. They said the bed was perfectly made. The sheets tightly pulled. The pillows aligned. As if no one had slept in it at all. That was the moment something inside me broke a little. Because I remembered in excruciating detail how I had thrown myself off that bed. How the sheets had twisted. How the pillows had fallen. It was not perfectly made. Someone or something had fixed it. I didn't argue with the officers. I didn't go back. I didn't pack my things. I went straight to a motel on the other side of town. Cheap, noisy, crowded, the exact opposite of my home, and somehow that felt safer. That night I checked the lock 3 times. Then a 4th. Then a 5th. When I finally lay down exhausted, I noticed something under the motel pillow. A small thin line of dark gray dust. The same color as the smear that had been on my cheek. I stared at it for a long time, my heartbeat slowly climbing back into my throat. Because if the police found nothing at my house, then how did that get here? And more importantly, how did it know where I went?